Welcome back in, everybody. Appreciate you joining us again tonight to the show that doesn't yet have a name. We talked about it last week. We'll do it again in future weeks. Corey is back. Austin is back. Shane is back. We've got a new guest back tonight who happens to be a Giants fan and basically all things New York. So, Yusef, really quick, tell everybody hello.
How you guys doing? Great to have you on. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Great to be here with you guys, man.
Appreciate you being here. How's everybody doing tonight?
Hey, doing great.
Doing good,
Man, I had
Just
so
keeping.
much
Hey,
alcohol this
Emery.
weekend. I am just now recovering from alcohol.
Let's get to it.
It's facts.
Yeah. That's funny.
Let's get to it. It is a privilege to have everybody in the audience and everybody on the panel tonight. First question up. We're talking NFL draft once again. We'll do that for the next couple of weeks, of course. But the player that you hope your least favorite NFL team does not get in the draft, the player that you don't want your least favorite team to get. Corey, you're the man.
My least favorite team, as some of y'all know, is the Saints. I hope they get nothing. I hope they get absolutely nothing at all. And one of the worst things that could happen is say they draft a Dallas Turner. And that's just going to I feel like as a Falcons fan, we need Dallas Turner. We got to make that pick. So if it comes down to the Saints somehow bolstering up that defense, I don't want to see that twice a year. So I don't need them to do anything well. I need them to blow it somehow. I want the Saints to do nothing with anybody.
Shane?
I'll go with last week. I said the Cardinals were my I don't care. Do they even exist in the NFL team? So I'll say if they draft J.J. McCarthy and make a change at quarterback and somehow something mysterious happens and the Cardinals are a playoff football team again, that would be my run because, like I said, the Cardinals exist to be beaten in the NFC. So I don't know what other purpose they have.
I like it. Austin?
Well, as a Vikings fan, I despise the Packers. And what I do not want to see, and thankfully I think he's too far, or I think the Packers are too far down in the draft order to get him, but I've seen some mocks where he falls. And that's Super DeJean out of Iowa, the stud nickel corner / safety. He can play in the box. He can shut down your best receiver. They've already got Jai Alexander out on the outside. I think Cooper DeJean kind of playing that flex nickel box player would just absolutely torture the NFC North, and that's what I don't want to see.
Totally understand. The exercise of this here, we'll get to yourself in a second, is we could just say, what player are you in love with? But we've also mixed it with, hey, I really don't want this team to get this player, and that's usually a good combination. Yusef, you're up. Again, you're our guest tonight. Appreciate you having you on. Everybody in the audience, his name is really Mr. U. They call me Mr. U. You can catch him on YouTube. I'll let him talk more about that at the end of the show, but you can call him by either name. Yusef, what you got, man?
All right, well, I'm invested in my rivals failing and being destroyed. That's where I'm at in life. So for me as a Giants fan, of course, the Cowboys are our primary rivals. Some say the Eagles, but that's debatable. So for me, I think there's one guy that we got our eye on that I feel is though because we're saying it publicly, the Cowboys are going to try to take him. Because number one, they have a running back issue. Pollard left, and I'm not sure Zeke is going to come back for this big reunion they were talking about. So I don't want him to get Trey Benson from Florida State. Size, speed, somebody that can be a good not a replacement for Saquon, but a backup to Singletary, kind of a thunder and lightning kind of thing going on. I want to have that back on in our backfield again, and the Cowboys are in desperate need of a running back, and that's not a strong position in the draft. I don't want it to happen. So hopefully they won't get him. Even if we don't, they can't have him.
Breaking
That's
news,
the main thing, right?
Breaking news, as you were talking, Austin Schefter here. I don't know if you knew that. As you were talking about how the Cowboys need a running back, Royce Freeman signed in Dallas. I'm not joking. I don't know if you can see that or not. As you were talking.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Still, Trey Benson. Right? Trey Benson's so much better than Royce Freeman, but that's just good timing.
Where's he been the past 3 years?
Royce, he was in Tennessee. He went to Carolina for a little bit. He was in Carolina.
The last time you saw that man was in Denver, I think it was, and that was like 4 or 5 years ago. He was playing
wanna-
somewhere now?
Keep an eye on it in the NFL draft. Let's move on.
Oh wait, was he in
Pick number.
Chicago last year?
We'll figure it out later. Moving on, number 2, pick an NFL franchise. This is my favorite question of the night, actually. Pick an NFL franchise, plant it in another city, give it a new name. So feel free to rip somebody's heart away, or maybe you just think the league would be better this way. I'm curious to see where y'all go with this. I've got one, too. Corey, what you got?
So I thought about this one for a minute. I even asked, some people around it, and I think one thing that stuck out to me was like, why not have like the New York Jets be a team in say like Alabama or something? So then it could grow a lore of how Joe Namath went to Alabama and, the Jets won the Super Bowl. So that could bring like an automatic fan base to Alabama because they already Alabama crazy fans. So then I feel like if you put the Jets in Alabama, almost like a SEC country type of feel, I think that would do a lot for their organization. Because I feel like the Jets haven't really been – I mean, they got Aaron Rodgers last year. He got hurt. I don't know. The Jets just seem like to me, I feel like they could use a change of scenery, so to speak. So I would put the Jets in Alabama and then just see what happens. I don't know. That's
Great
All
idea.
right, we've got the Alabama Jets. Makes sense because New York has the 2 teams. Shane, what you got?
So I went with one of the teams that your jersey-wise you hate, Ben. So I picked Baltimore to move because they're already good at abandoning cities and then moving. So I moved them all the way out to Utah.
Yes.
I went with with their jersey color. If we didn't change that, I went with the Utah Comets for the new name.
Nice.
So I figured it's a decent team. Utah, college-wise, loves football. So I think you'd still get a solid fan base. And like I said, the Baltimore franchise is used to just shipping itself out during the nighttime and ending up in a new place. So
I like that. The Utah Comets. Now, Austin,
Utah Comets.
I hope you don't disappoint me because you're always the one who comes in from a different angle. So I'm really looking for something amazing here. What you got?
So I was inspired by the same thing you were, Shane. I thought what team moves? Baltimore immediately jumped out as a team that's just going to move. And I thought about the map and I was like, what teams are adjacent there that it would kind of free up some space for their fans to move into Baltimore. And then I realized that there was a team right next door to Baltimore, and I was really hoping Robertson would be on this week.
Oh no. Oh.
They just had a change of ownership. And I despise the Commanders. I call them the commies because I think the Commanders are not the player, the team, or anything like that. Just the name. I don't like the name, the Commanders. So we're shipping the Washington Commanders out west, and we're stopping in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And I've got a fresh team name for us because obviously we're not sticking with the Commanders. The Oklahoma City Twisters is my new franchise.
Austin, you did not disappoint. You not only ripped somebody's heart out, which I love, but you gave it a brand new city and a new name. So, all right, I really like that. OKC Twisters. Mr. Yu, what you got?
All right, mine's going to be team in comparison. I just know it at this point now. But I'm going to go ahead and try to help out the St. Louis fans who got their hearts ripped out by their ownership and moved to LA and then won a championship there to make it even worse. I'm going to take a team that has like 67,000 people in attendance. That's not good for an NFL team. I'm saying the Chicago Bears out of their home. Nobody wants them anyway, really. Move them to St. Louis, and we're going to call them the St. Louis Knights. They got a big Catholic roots out there in St. Louis, and the whole big Saints and King of France type thing going on, whole Vatican deal. So we can call them the St. Louis Knights. KNI. We're gonna give them
I actually like that.
Metallic blue and silver uniforms with white and yellow in there, just kind of remind them of the team that they lost. Just as a reminder. So
yeah, I actually like that. That's very cool. I mean, I hate that Chicago loses their team, right? But I mean, they haven't done a whole lot with it lately. So
they won't
why not
notice
give
it.
it?
They won't.
No, they won't notice. Right? Okay.
Did they leave?
My team is a team that I hated when they left. So the Oilers left Houston a long time ago. Now Houston's got a team, and I like it. The Texans just fit there, so I'm not going to rip anything away from Houston. But we are bringing back the Oilers, baby. I love the logo, the uniform, the history, all of it. We're going to rip that history away from whoever's got it now. I don't remember if it's Cleveland or Houston or whoever the heck has it. It's not Cleveland, but wherever that history is, it's coming back. And the Oilers are heading to North Dakota because North Dakota's had all of that massive oil hit over the past few years. There's no big cities around, so we're going to put them on the east border, kind of between Winnipeg, Canada, and St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. We'll just steal from those areas as much as we can because there really are no big cities in North Dakota. But that's okay. That's where they're going, North Dakota Oilers. And it's coming from Arizona. So I mentioned last week that the Arizona Cardinals, if they were gone, nobody would miss them. So that's where they're coming from. And it's going to be the North Dakota Oilers with the same old uniform that they used to have all through the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And that's what it's going to be. All right. I love that. Still NFL, third topic. We picked out randomly 4 receivers. And this question really started with Corey. 4 receivers who are now retired. They were all really good. 3 of them created problems at times. So we're going to pick out most diva and favorite or best, whichever way you want to phrase that. Okay. So Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, Terrell Owens, Chad Johnson. Those are the 4. You pick out your most diva player or controversial player, however you want to phrase that. And then while you're at it, you also pick out the receiver that maybe you would most want on your team. Corey.
I'm going to go ahead and say it, man. T.O. was something serious, man. Like, T.O. had the memes. T.O. had the press conferences. T.O. had the fight in the middle of the field in Dallas. I mean, he even made great plays when he was, early in San Francisco. He made, broke his leg, came back during the Super Bowl season with the Eagles. So then, Terrell, and then, him going off on during that game, and then him kind of being right about what happened, but then, like, you don't want to throw your quarterback under the bus. But T.O., I feel like is and then with Romo, and then, like I said, that's my quarterback. I think T.O. is the most diva of all of them. And I think the best receiver, I'm going Randy Moss, man. Like, Randy Moss, his last name literally is a verb. You can you moss someone these days. Like, it's an action. Like, Randy Moss, he and every team he was on, they was pretty good. I mean, and shout out to the Giants who kept them boys out that one year. But Randy Moss went crazy that year. I think they had 40 touchdowns, something crazy like that. Like, but Randy Moss is probably my best receiver and most diva T.O.
I'm curious to see where we all land on this as a panel. Shane, you're up.
So I agree with Corey on the diva, but I loved him, T.O. Like Corey said, my favorite was the fight at the middle of the star. I mean, when that's what you're willing to do, I mean, what else can you say? Taking the Sharpie out of the sock, signing the ball because his agent said this is going to be a great idea. Doing the crunches while talking about how terrible his quarterback is in Philadelphia. And then for best wide receiver, I think all around it's Ocho Cinco. Chad Johnson, he could beat you deep. He ran nice routes. If you needed somebody to kick an extra point for you, he could do that as well. I think as the time has gone by, he's gotten a little bit more respect for what he could do all around as a wide receiver. I mean, I don't think you're picking any bad wide receivers out of the group we have, but Chad Ochocinco is my favorite on this one.
Love it. Austin, what's your pair?
I mean, Terrell Owens is the diva. He's the NFL's diva of all time, and especially at the receiver position, which is the diva position. Yeah, I don't need to hit on that anymore. I was in a coin toss here for best receiver between Randy and Megatron, Calvin Johnson. If Calvin had played a few more years, I think he would have gone down as possibly the most dominant to ever do it. Obviously, you're not catching any of Jerry's records, but what he did in his prime was just incredible. But since you threw out the ability just to go with my favorite, I'm a Vikings fan. Randy Moss is my favorite receiver ever. Give me Randy Moss.
Mr. U, what's your pair, man?
The fact I can name this stuff and you guys didn't, that means it's a really long laundry list of stuff. to talk about. But the Diva has to be T.O., man. I mean, there's no. I love him in Cincinnati to be fair. I mean, he basically saved that season by his performance out there, which is really good. But he constantly questioned his coach and Mariucci. He questioned the masculinity of his quarterback in Garcia, Jeff Garcia. He was a nightmare for Donovan McNabb. That's 2 quarterbacks in a row. I mean, he spit on D'Angelo Hall. I mean, he was fighting with his wide receivers coach and Todd Haley. I mean, that's just highlights. So he's the Diva of all time right here. There's no question there for me. As far as the best, I'm gonna go with Megatron. Even though his retirement was in 2015, I'm gonna go with him because the time he retired, he had the most consecutive 100-yard seasons. He had the most receiving yards. This was a standing record. I'm not sure it's been eclipsed yet. Might have to check on that one. But as far as the Lions go, career stats and receptions and receiving yards, I mean, Pro Bowl honors out the yin yang. I mean, guy was just a stud. He was a monster out there. If Detroit took care of him, he would probably go down in history even at greater than what he was. But that's the only thing that really stopped him from making a super legacy was his relationship with his team. But the man was unstoppable. He was incredible. He's my best.
Love both. Yeah. Yeah. Love both. I'm right there with basically where most of y'all are at. So for me, Owens was the most Diva. Part of the reason Owens got it versus Moss, because there was a time when Moss was just as bad, but Moss kind of sort of matured out of some of that, and Owens kind of never did. Even after retirement, Owens was still doing some of these shenanigans. So Owens, for me, just not only the volume, he just never really seemed to grow up his entire career, whereas some of the other guys at some point seemed to kind of level off. Owens was Owens was something else, man. And 2, like a couple y'all mentioned, I was split between Randy Moss and Megatron for best ever. I that was where I was at. Ultimately, I landed on Randy Moss. If he hadn't gotten in trouble kind of during his high school years and his college years, he would have been at Florida State and would have been legendary, would have been drafted even higher, would have come out with more notoriety. And had he been able to maybe stay with a better quarterback for part of his NFL career, he too would have just launched numbers that nobody could touch. You talk about a guy who could go up and get it, and the unbelievable vert speed. I mean, his speed straight line was insane. And his hands were good. You name it, he could do it. Megatron's right there with him in a different style. Ultimately, though, I picked Randy Moss just because the guy was insane. He was absolutely insane everywhere. That's it on that. Our next topic for the night is switching. So we're off of NFL. We're into NBA. The NBA playoffs are basically starting as we speak. Tonight's games won't affect us any, but tomorrow night's games might. This is going to be confusing and chaotic, but I love it. So let's jump right into it. Each of our panel tonight is going to draft not 1, but 2 NBA players. And over the next 4 weeks, starting next week, we're going to vote off 1 player every week. And we're going to randomly kick out a player every week or most weeks until there's only 1 player left. And whichever one of you owns that 1 player is going to be the winner of what we're calling NBA Survivor Island. So it's going to be a little confusing. I know it will be chaotic. We'll work our way through that, and we will have 1 winner and 1 winner only 4 weeks from next week. It will be a lot of fun. Corey, you were going to do the honors and draft first, my man. Who you want?
Man, I'm going LeBron. I'm going LeBron James simply because that's the only pick I could really feel like. I feel like if I pick LeBron James and he happens to, I don't know how they're going to come out into the playoff or out of the playoff. I really think they might get eliminated, to be honest with you. But just hoping that he can have like a good push, maybe break some records, maybe kind of test the limits, kind of prove a lot of people wrong. I'm always all about a story where, they might be counted out, but maybe he could do something with that. I'm going LeBron, and then kind of the same thing with Steph, because I feel like the Warriors, they're bandwagon losing wheels. Draymond Green is trying to fight everybody. And then Steph Curry, he's still Steph Curry. Steph Curry can still shoot the lights out and carry a team. So I'm just hoping that maybe those 2 guys do well, and then let's just see what happens. But I think they probably going to get eliminated soon.
Corey, this is where the chaos and confusion starts, and this is my fault for not explaining it right. So, Corey, I'm going to give you LeBron as first pick. You'll pick again at spot number 6 in tonight's draft, and you can pick whoever's still available, if it's Steph or somebody else. So, Corey gets LeBron. Shane is up next.
For my pick, I went with Luka. I think he is the bus driver, the general manager, the coach, the point guard, the everything for the Mavericks. I think he has a rounded game, so it's going to be hard for somebody to give me a joke reason to eliminate him off the island. So that's my first pick, Luka Doncic.
Fair enough. Austin, I'm curious to see. I know you love MLB and NFL. Do you even watch NBA? And if so, who you got here?
I'm a more of a college basketball fan. I used to be an NBA fan, but the game's kind of not as exciting to me as it used to be. Especially since being a Cavs fan, we weren't good for a while. We're good again. Um, but I'm actually, as well as anyone, Ben, that I am a man who loves through lines through,
Yes.
whether it be one podcast episode or one show or whatever. And so I've got to tie in my answer from earlier, as I always like to do here. Back to Oklahoma City, the Thunder, the Thunder, coming hand in hand with the Twister. That's going to be, the 2029 Oklahoma City Twisters. No, the Thunder's best player, possible MVP, average over 30 points a game this year, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
SGA, baby. It was going to be one of my top picks for sure. Mr. U, do you like NBA and who are you picking?
NBA's been dead since the 90s, but it is what it is. I'm going to stand on that hill. I'm going to die on that hill. But I watch it sparingly, but it's not my favorite. My guy just got picked, so I'm going to pick Jalen Brunson for my guy. Average about 28.6 a game, playing 75 games, so that's a little bit more games than what Shai's been playing. But because of his role in the offense, he's getting fed the ball a lot, so that number is definitely going to increase during the playoffs. So they're relying on him big time. So, I like my chances there.
I like your chances too, yeah, because obviously, even though you won't continue on the next few weeks, you're stealing a player right there from the other four of us, yeah. So that's why I like that one, because Brunson's got a good chance to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and he is the main, by far, scorer for his team. So he may push 40 a night for some of these games. That's an excellent pick, and again, we won't get that one, but I love the pick. I was going to pick SGA first. He's not available, so I'm going Anthony Edwards, who is my favorite guy in the NBA now. The angry with which he plays, the scoring ability. He's not quite as many PPG per night, but still he's way up there, and I expect him to do some of the same in the playoffs. So I'm picking Anthony Edwards, and that sends it back to you, Corey, if you want Steph or if you want somebody else instead.
I think I'm going to stick with Steph on this one, man. I'm still going to stick with Steph on this one. I'm not sure. I'm just looking for like something spectacular, something I know they might get put out, but let's just see if I'm wrong. That type of thing.
Fair enough. So Corey's got the legends, and that brings us back to Shane, who picked Luka to begin with.
See, and Yusuf took Brunson. That was going to be my carry all over there, because he is the only thing for the Knicks right now. So on that standpoint,
whoa. That's not true, man. That's not true.
The Knicks are sad.
The ball, man. Anunoby is the man.
Knicks without Jalen Brunson are a sad, sad team, and they have been since the 90s. Just like you said, the NBA's been dead. Patrick Ewing's not around anymore.
Look him up.
My second pick, though, in that case, is going to be Jason Tatum. Boston Celtics. They have another run in them. I think that they'll stick around, and he's also going to be a top scorer for them. So.
Yeah, Tatum was in my top 10 as well. I had 11 picks ready to go, so that no matter what, I would have somebody that I wanted. But y'all are picking through my top 5 pretty quickly here. That brings it back to Austin for your second player.
Yeah, well, I already kind of gave a little teaser there talking about my Cavs team, and I'm going to go with the Cavs' best player, their highest score, in Donovan Mitchell. He was actually one of my favorite players, several years ago, back when he was out west. My one gripe with Donovan Mitchell is that he's a big baseball fan, which I love, obviously. But he's a Mets fan, which, that hurts.
Mr. U, are you Mets or Yankees, man? I don't know if you're getting prodded here or not.
I grew up in an all New York household. It was a rule that we rooted for everybody from New York to Connecticut. If they were we rooted for them. But once I left home, I dropped those Mets. I'm a Yankees fan. Since
Oh, okay. All
1977,
right.
really. As a personal love for them, so my mom wouldn't beat me,
Mr. You already took Jalen Brunson from the group, so we can't count on him. What's your second person that you're going to steal away from us?
Y'all stole two guys from me already, but I'm going with the Joker.
Nice.
I'm going with him because, well, first of all, I love his field goal percentage. That means he's getting the ball in his hand a lot, that makes sense. He's probably their best player. If he's not, I'm surprised. So he needs to have the ball in his hand the majority of the time. So I'm going with the Joker. Averaging 34.6 minutes. Yeah, I like what's going on there. So I like our chances with the Joker. So go with Brunson
All right.
and the Joker.
Y'all pretty much took up all, and myself as well, took up my top 8. I was tempted to take Giannis, but he's hurt. Lillard, if Lillard's left on the Bucks, the chances are that the Bucks may just get knocked out in the first round. So I'm skipping him too, and that left me basically with Kawhi Leonard, Zion Williamson, and Jaylen Brown. And I love Jaylen Brown. He is the vicious night stalker attacker of that team, no doubt about it. But I think at the end of the night, I'm going to go back with Kawhi Leonard. So there's a very good chance the Clippers could be around for a couple of rounds, and Leonard's going to be a very big part of that if he is. So Kawhi Leonard, who I absolutely love, is going to be my second player to go along with Anthony Edwards. All right, so we'll move off of that. We'll do more of that next week, but next week we will be voting people off, and somebody will disappear as well. In addition to the vote off, we will do all of that next week. Let's move on to our fifth topic of the night. This one's a little bit more on the personal side. Some people have great childhoods, some don't. But tonight, I want to know, what is your favorite memory from childhood, specific day, best day / moment ever? Corey, you're up.
I think one of my favorite moments was when my grandma took me to a Braves game. She took me to a Braves game. It was like Turner Field. And it was the time of, like, I think I mentioned this before. It was Andrew Jones, Chipper Jones, Javi Lopez. They had the big cat out there. I think the big cat signed a baseball for me. I was, real small. So, ate all the ice cream and all the food. It was just fun, man. In the little press box. I think that was, one of my favorite memories as a youth.
Love
for
it.
Sure.
Yeah, all of that. Shane?
I'm going the grandma run as well, as Corey. I'm one of 28 first cousins. So like holidays were the times where people were around. Mine would be Thanksgiving. I'm going to say I was probably like 16. My brother and I are like the middle of the cousins. So all our older cousins were coming back from college and their lives and getting to be around them. And those are just like concrete memories. Great meal, as I know you'll always be behind Ben. So my grandmother was an excellent cook. So we all enjoyed meals, and then just getting to see everybody. That was one of those times kind of before I got older and started to have other responsibilities. So that's the top date for me.
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday for sure. Man, like half of that's called the football, to be honest. Let's be real. Austin, what's your memory, man?
Man, when I saw this question, I got teleported back to just a corner of left field, out in the outfield of my local ballpark, R.L. Turner, back in Florida, and spending time there with my grandfather, who we played a game. We called it corner ball. I was too small to play on the big field, so we pulled up one of them big L screens, set it in the back. We had our own little throwdown plate we threw in front of it. We taped a cardboard box that for like mason jars, and we hung it with string to that L screen, and then we'd throw at that, and that'd be our strike zone. And we played a little game. He'd hit the baseball. He'd swing the bat one handed because he's a big grown adult, even though he's in his 70s at the time. He was in incredible shape, and me. I mean, we did this from the time I was like 5 till the time I was starting high school. Eventually playing on the big full size field. But those days back playing in the corner, we called it corner ball. I remember the day I hit the first day I ever hit a home run, both from the left and the right side, growing up switch hitting. So yeah, that's my favorite memories as a kid.
So far, all grandparents and a lot of baseball. Mr. U, what do you got?
Austin, that gave me some feels, brother. Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, back in that day, we didn't have a lot of money to go to games and to see the teams that are local to me. So I had to do a lot on TV and radio and stuff. So for us, we couldn't even afford a baseball and a bat a lot of the time. So we would play stickball. And a good friend of mine, he was my best friend, as a matter of fact, but he was nauseating about him was that he was good at everything. I'm talking about an athlete, caught what I mean, he can box, he can run fast, he was strong, he can shoot basketballs. I mean, he can hit, he can do everything. He was just super talented, and he just was good at everything all the time. It was nauseating to be his best friend. But at the same time, we were playing in the schoolyard, and he was just fast pitching baseballs and tennis balls. Where I took him deep for 80 feet over the roof of the schoolyard. I was striking out against him routinely, like regular. Like, might go ahead and just put the bat down. I was striking out that many times. I saw the ball good. I moved my hands out at the right time, took him deep. I bragged about that thing for years. Over the top of the high school roof, it was the highlight of my young life. But it was a story of perseverance and stuff too, and just believing in yourself. But it was awesome, man. It was a big deal. Just one really good memory from the ghetto.
That's really cool. That's like a Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson, man. I mean, that moment's always there,
Yeah,
it's always there. Mine, real quick, was my 11th birthday, and I did have a good childhood. We didn't have a ton of money, but we always had everything we needed plus a little bit more, right? So I had a really good childhood, people to play with, everything. My 11th birthday specifically, I got to have two friends over, Joe and Jesse, along with my brother. We played all day. We played in the pool. We went out and played some baseball, too, in the front yard. My mom, who always made sure, my dad paid for it, of course. My mom made sure I got presents I liked, whatever we could afford. So there were baseball cards there. We're talking about 91 Donruss. We're talking about 91 Fleer, 91 Upper Deck, 91 Tops, all of that good stuff. I got several packs of that, got to open those up. That was cool. We got to go to, had basically sleep over. The friends stayed that night. I mean, it was just a perfect day, perfect night. And I remember laying there watching all my friends and brothers would sleep that night after what was just really a perfect day, and watching the moon rise that night through our bedroom window. It was just like the perfect day. And I had a lot of good days as a kid, but that one was just right up there. It was just one of those days where it felt like everything fell together. And you know how rare those days can be, right? So that was a special day for me, and one that I will not ever forget until I'm an old man drooling in a nursing home somewhere. But that was really cool. All right, it's time for our final 60. Our show's running a little bit long, but that's okay because we had some things we wanted to cover. Corey, you're up first with your final 60.
Man, women's basketball, man. I'm ready to see what's going on, man. I mean, I think season starts in a couple of weeks. The draft was last night. Me and the wife watched the draft, and I'm excited to see what the Chicago Sky do with Angel Reese and Cardoso on the same team. Like, that's like a brick wall. Like, I'm not sure. I just like to see what they're gonna do. I just feel like they're gonna handle business out there with the Chicago Sky. Of course, Caitlin Clark got the #1 pick, the Indiana Fever. I think I read somewhere like all sizes of all her jerseys already sold out. Like, already. And I think that man, WNBA is gonna be crazy. I mean, the draft, they had a lot of players from overseas. There's a lot of variety of players, and I'm just excited to see how it comes out through the pro season. You see some of the veterans are kind of, they feeling the type of way, but the young ones coming in a little bit. I think there's a lot going on in WNBA, man. I love it, man. I love it. It's entertaining for sure.
I love all of it. It'll be tough to beat Vegas, though. Vegas is serious. They are some serious stompers over there. Buddy. All right, Shane.
I took my 60 seconds on a sport that we don't talk about much in this, but I hit on a team moving to Utah. So my 60 seconds is on the Arizona Coyotes finally making a move because they can't get anything right there, and joining Utah, which has kind of become the new capital for sports out west. I think it's something that needed to happen. As somebody who lives up north, you've seen the Expos hat, Montreal Canadiens fan. I know the people of Quebec wishes that a team would move back to Quebec City, but I think the NHL finally made a move and has admitted that Arizona was a team that, has never really had a set home, and it hasn't worked out for them. So my 60 goes to that.
Yeah, fascinating. Austin?
All right, well, I'm back. You know what time it is.
Yes.
So I'm here to talk about the movie Immaculate, which is the newest Sydney Sweeney movie. Second movie of hers I'm covering. This one is a horror movie, and I didn't want to know any. When I go into horror movies specifically, I don't want to know anything about them. I think that just makes them more fun. So I didn't look into this at all. It was called Immaculate, so I figured it'd have to do something with, Immaculate Conception. I saw in the trailer or in the poster she was like dressed up as a nun.
Mhm.
I give it like a solid 6 out of 10. I didn't dislike the movie by any means. The writing wasn't like too fantastic or anything. Sydney Sweeney's acting's pretty is great. The rest of the supporting cast is kind of meh. But it's not the type of horror that I was expecting. I was expecting like some like Conjuring or like ghosts and demons or things
Yeah.
like that, but it was much more of like a thriller. There wasn't anything. I don't want to spoil the movie. It was a fairly grounded movie for a movie that's about Immaculate Conception. It was very grounded, and I did appreciate that take on it. And the very last scene is like I just sat in my chair for like a few seconds just to like kind of let it simmer because that the last scene was intense. I do recommend seeing it. It was a fine movie. Maybe not if you're pregnant though. Maybe don't watch it then.
I cannot do horror movies. I tried. I can't do them, but more power. I have brothers and sisters and cousins who eat that stuff up. So more power to all of you who love that kind of stuff. Mr. You got your final 60, and then along with it, if you will, tell everybody where they can see your stuff, your content as well. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you much. I take a page out of Shane's book. I'm going to talk about professional wrestling. It's near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons. To be honest with you, I say it all the time, but I actually listened to the sounds of the WWF while I was in my mother's womb, like literally. When I came out and I heard them sounds, I recognized it. I was like, I had an attentive to it. That's how much I was hearing it. Some of my best memories with my grandmother when she was alive was watching her watch wrestling. I was watching her watch wrestling. That gave me joy to see how she would act and she would mimic things and she Hulk Hogan hit somebody with a chair and she would jump up and down and she would cheer. I mean, I still get emotional about it. But people talk about how it's fake and how it's this and that, but it's a storyline. It's character development. Enjoy
Yes.
it for what it is. Stop complaining. Just enjoy it for what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be entertainment,
Entertainment.
athletic edge to it. One of the only autographs was from Big John Studd, one of the big highlights of my childhood. Nobody talks about him, but he was as big as you think he is. He was humongous. His hand was like bigger than my whole head, signing an autograph for me. Don't know where the autograph is to this day, but real awesome memories from that. I'm still a watcher now. I don't paint myself and I cry when Kofi won. I mean, I don't go much further than that. But if it's sentimental and it hits me in the right spots, I can be emotional
Yeah.
about it. It's incredible, man, and it's a lot of families are tied together by this. So I just say, you know what? Don't complain and try to make it into something else. Just enjoy for what it is. Technical wrestling, aerial skills, whatever it is that you enjoy, just enjoy it. And as far as I'm on all the socials at They Call Me Mr. U. We got a YouTube channel as well by the same name. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're all over the place, man. So we definitely appreciate your support and for sharing us with your friends and your family. And I love to do the same for you guys as well, too. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Love the wrestling, and yeah, man. I mean, it's no different than a movie with a scripted outcome, man. I love the stuff. If you don't like it, don't watch it. But I mean, I absolutely eat it up. My final 60. Don't forget to check out, of course, Mr. U's content that he just mentioned. Odds on favorite, a podcast that we'll be recording later tonight. Check that out as well. Tricky Takes. That's Austin and Friends. Don't forget to check out Tricky Takes as well. Podcast. You can get all those on wherever you get your podcast at, Apple, Spotify, anywhere at all. You can catch those as well. Everybody say goodbye because we are done. Have a great one. See ya.
Peace.
See ya.